I am much more intentional now in terms of sharing opinions that I know may be somewhat controversial. I'm not trying to go out of my way to be controversial. I'm sharing what I actually think about these cities. I share even in a city overview.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the YouTube Creators Hub podcast, where each and every Friday I sit down with a wonderful content creator and I break down what makes them successful on YouTube or as a content creator. So if you're looking to start, grow, or monetize your channel, this is the show for you. As you'll notice, we don't have any advertisers or advertisements throughout the show. We just bring the show to you with all of the things that we have to offer creators. So from the top, we do one-on-one coaching with me, where you can hire me to be your creator coach, and I can take a look at your channel and we can dive into some questions that you may have. It's a great step to take. Number two, I do YouTube channel audits and reviews. For $50, you get a 6 to 8 minute channel review where I do a screencast of your channel, talk about things that I think you can improve on and where you should be spending the majority of your time. Also, we have a mastermind group. $5 gets you in. You get access to our mastermind calls that happen monthly on Zoom that I host. You get access to our creator forum over on Discord. And I also release exclusive episodes of a podcast called The Creator's Corner, which is about an 8 to 15 minute audio episode monologue from me. A couple of other freebies. We have an email newsletter called The Entrepreneur's Minute. If you're looking to keep up with me and what I got going on, definitely check that out. And then lastly, we have the Entrepreneur's Toolbox, which is a running list of all the tools and resources mentioned here on the podcast, either from me or the guest. So with that said, let's jump into this week's conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's conversation on the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. Dusty here, as always, joined today by Brady Bagley from the City Geek YouTube channel, all the way almost 4 years ago. On episode 309, we had Brady on when he had just around 4,000 subscribers on his channel that he calls City Geek. Now, City Geek is a channel for anyone who's interested in learning more about cities. How about that? So although he grew up in a small town in Idaho, he's since lived in some of the largest cities throughout the U.S. and has developed a love and passion for cities. As part of his day job, he also frequently travels to these different cities around the country. And he hopes that his channel will share how much he loves and cares about cities with everyone on YouTube. Tons of his videos have hundreds of thousands of views. He is one of the biggest kind of geographical or geography channels as far as cities and locations on YouTube. Brady, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks, Dusty. It's great being back on.
Yep, I am so excited to have you back on. It's fun having return guests because obviously you've learned so much. Your channel has grown so much. And people hear your numbers and they think, oh man, 4,000 to 55,000 subscribers. But they would assume that you've uploaded hundreds of videos, but you really haven't. You're just at the 84, 85 video mark. What do you think it is about your videos that make them successful? Let's start there, because we've already talked about what the channel is. If you want to know, you can go back and listen to 309. We're not going to cover the same stuff here, but basically it's a city-centric YouTube channel where you do these major overviews of cities. So for instance, Calgary. You titled the video Calgary Overview, an informative introduction to Calgary, Alberta. And you do this with many other major cities around not only obviously the United States, but Canada and possibly beyond. So what do you think it is about your videos that make them stand out to really perform well?
I think one thing for sure is that they seem to have a really long tail. And so when I make these overview videos, like I go into it, and unfortunately I have a passion for this. Part of the reason I started the channel is that I love geography. I was already watching geography videos, but I felt like there were a lot of like travel vlog type videos in relation to cities, but there weren't a lot of just informative, like educational bite-sized videos about cities. And yeah, the idea of starting a YouTube channel was something I'd thought about for a long time. And I realized that there was a kind of an opening or a lane here. And so I go into it, again, wanting to make the type of video that I wished had existed years ago. And fortunately, enough people like the content to where they seem to rank on search. And then they've got this long tail to where I'm still getting hundreds of views a day for years after uploading. And so that's where, again, like you'd mentioned, I haven't uploaded hundreds of videos to this point, but my videos over time, they just keep getting views and the subscribers keep coming in. And so it's grown that way.
So you would say that you're focused, what would be the percentage or weight of how much focus you put on search and SEO optimization as opposed to growing a community around City Geek?
Yeah, that's a great question. When we had last spoke on the podcast a few years ago, pretty much 100% of my focus was on search. That was tried and true to that point, although my channel was much smaller several years ago. And so that was kind of my bread and butter, is making these city overview videos. But in the last year to 2 years, I have maybe one out of every 5 videos is more of like a ranking my favorite skylines, or what are the most underwhelming skylines given their population size in the country? What are the top like art deco skyscrapers in the country? Things like that, that they aren't really geared toward being ranked on search, but it's more for people like me that enjoy this type of content, that enjoy learning about architecture and cities. And some of those have been very successful. It is a little more hit and miss. And when I miss on those and they don't get picked up by the algorithm, they don't have the long tail views like my overviews do. But I had a video maybe a couple months ago where I ranked like the most overperforming skylines given their population size. And that was one that it's still my top performing video. If I look at my last 48 hours, the views are still coming in. I think it's at 170,000 views. And so it's been good kind of switching it up. And that does, I think, help in terms of me building a community, is not just making these overview of Pittsburgh or overview of Des Moines type videos, but having somewhere it's more just about ranking cities by different metrics, again, throughout the country.
And what do you think is, I guess I would say, what was your thought process of, okay, I have this bucket of content talking about the city overviews, which is what you're known for, but you wanted to try different programming. You wanted to try different types of videos. And so you landed on this listicle top 10, but it's still related to your niche of cities and architecture and things that you're known for. What was the thought process of doing that? And what were the kind of pros and cons in your head? And you've obviously mentioned the benefits of when they take off, they become very popular. So how do you plan, I guess the follow-up to that is, how do you plan to release these in cadence as far as like an overview video, then one of these other types? What are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah. One thing that may be helpful for some listeners to know is when I had the idea to start this YouTube channel, I had the thought that I was going to make some of these like city overviews, but also some of these ranking type videos. And I remember when I was workshopping a name for the channel, like one of the names was like cities summarized or something, because I thought, oh yeah, these overview videos, that's really what I'm going to be doing. Again, even before starting the channel, that was the lane that I saw. But I changed it to City Geek so that I could basically do any content that I was in the mood for related to cities. I wasn't pigeonholed into doing one type of thing. And so that was very intentional early on. Early on, I did make a few skyline ranking videos. And because my channel was so small, and ultimately, it wasn't just that my channel was small, I wasn't as good at making videos in the early days of the channel. Those did not get picked up at all. And it wasn't until some of my city overview videos started getting ranked on search that I started finally getting some traction. And so I've revisited some of these ideas that I had 4 years ago or so when starting the channel. It's just that I'm better at editing now and I know more about cities. My opinion probably carries a little more weight just given the size of the channel, to where when I do these more like subjective opinion videos, yeah, they've just performed. They performed how I imagined they would have performed years ago, but I just wasn't good enough at making those videos back then.
That's a really good response. I want to ask a follow-up to that, if you don't mind, Brady. What do you think has improved from when you started the channel until now in regards to how you edit videos, how you plan them out? Maybe it's scripting, maybe it's packaging. What do you think have been the biggest 1, 2, 3 things that you've done that you've seen the biggest return on investment in regards to your YouTube channel?
Yeah, a few things. One, I have to mention that my audio is significantly better than it was early on. The early days of the channel, I was taking my phone into the back seat of my car at night to record the audio because it was such a lean operation. I didn't want to spend money until I was starting to make a little bit of money. So now that I have a microphone, that certainly is an easy way in which that's been leveled up. In terms of the editing, though, and just the thought process through making some of these videos, some of those early ranking type videos, I was almost scared to put my opinion out there. And so it was very like metric heavy. Oh, these are the skylines that have the most skyscrapers. These are if you took the average height of the tallest 5 buildings, these would be the top 15 tallest skylines in the country. And I was a little more reserved in terms of putting my opinion out there. And I've realized that's what a lot of people care about, right? When they click on a top 10 ranking, they don't want it to be this completely objective thing. They want to hear my opinion on it. And I think, again, given the fact that the channel's grown a little bit, that probably helps where people see, oh, this guy has 50,000 subscribers or whatever. I'm curious what he thinks are the best Art Deco buildings. So I think those things have helped, but if I would have done anything differently, I would have been a little more bold to just share my opinion rather than completely leaning on just whatever the objective metrics were and not putting my subjective thoughts into it. Because I think people care more about that. It's more engaging.
Speaking of engagement, how do you plan to get engagement from a community that from the outside may look very search centric? You and I've talked about this off air, obviously, but with the City Geek YouTube channel, if we want to take the monetization to the next level, like you've talked about, we'll probably have to branch outside of the YouTube partner program. We're thankful for the partner program. You obviously want to optimize and maximize what you can earn there. But what are other ways that you're hoping to drive engagement? Because that's a lot of questions I get from people who are in podcasting and video creation is, how do I get engagement? What do I do? Do I ask for it? So I want to ask your opinion. What are you planning on doing? And what are you currently doing?
So I guess in terms of engagement with my videos, to pull through what I had said in my last comment, I am much more intentional now in terms of sharing opinions that I know may be somewhat controversial. I'm not trying to go out of my way to be controversial. I'm sharing what I actually think about these cities. I share even in a city overview video. At the end of the videos, I kind of highlight what I think are unique aspects about each city. And sometimes I omit things that people think that I should have included, or I bring up something that maybe people disagree that I should have included, or I make an assessment on the skyline. I've realized that sharing some of those opinions leads to people commenting on the video. And I have embraced that to where even if I'm getting a lot of comments where people may disagree with what I appreciated about this city or this ranking, that engagement certainly helps. I love seeing people getting in debates with each other in my comment section about something as silly as which skyline is more beautiful than the other. But again, early on in the channel, I shied away from that. So that's one way in terms of just trying to have a little bit more engagement. In terms of growing the channel, the monetization, those types of things that we've talked about off air. Yeah, I'm at a point now where to this point, AdSense has been the only way in which I've made any income from the channel, which has been great. I appreciate that. But I'm certainly at a point now where I'm looking to make more money given the amount of time that I'm spending on this. And so that's where I think sponsorships, again, we've talked about that off air. Those are something that I'm exploring right now and am determined hopefully by the end of the year to start doing. And as well as, again, the fact that I make these city overviews, which have a long shelf life, that maybe doing some things in relation with the city. If I know I'm doing an overview on Rochester, Minnesota 3 months from now, or whatever it may be, looking at some ways to connect with the city or a business or some attraction in the city beforehand.
I made a note. You mentioned audio as one of the things that has improved the most in your channel or on your channel. What did you do as far as you can mention the microphone that you changed to, but were there things that you did in your recording space? And are there things that you can recommend to creators listening that are like, you know what, I think I'd like to take my audio up a notch?
Yeah. So again, early on, I was wrapping my phone in like a beanie, and I was in my children's tent. It's like I was doing that, and then I eventually moved to the car. But then I did get like a Blue Yeti mic, so it's like $130 or something. But then I also purchased some of the phone paneling for a sound treated room. And so I've got a corner in one of the rooms in our basement where, yeah, I've got the phone paneling up, and I use that space to go down and record. It's quiet. There aren't any distractions, but certainly right away when I made that change, and again, I was running a lean operation. I was hesitant to spend money before I started making money, but the engagement, the average view duration immediately went up. Obviously, that doesn't affect click rate at all, changing your audio, but my average view duration went up immediately once I started using a professional microphone. So it is something that, like, going back, if I could have talked to myself again 4.5 years ago, I would have just said, go buy the microphone, stop messing around, taking your phone into the backseat of your car. Like, the audio is going to be so much better that it's going to be a much better experience for the viewer. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that leveled up my channel immediately and the engagement.
Yeah, audio can be a game changer for a channel. It's oftentimes one of the reasons why I hit the back button or I don't consume a video, because I'll go to a channel and I'll watch a video, and the content and scripting and actual things that they're talking about are really great, but I can't understand them because their audio is just
Right.
so bad. Or the one that gets me is people who love to play super loud background music over their voices, and I can't understand, or it gets annoying to listen to. So those are two kind of pet peeves of mine. And as a creator coach, it's something that I oftentimes will mention within a session of, okay, let's double down on some audio stuff. What can we do that's inexpensive to help you improve that? So I really appreciate you giving us some kind of detail.
And I should mention really quickly, Dusty, that was another issue with my early videos, is that I still have background music for most of my videos, but it's way down in terms of the volume compared to early on in the channel. And fortunately, I did get a few comments mentioning that, which made me aware. I just wasn't aware that my background audio was so loud. But that was something, again, when I go back and watch some of my early videos, and this is normal for any YouTube channel, they're a little cringy when you go back after you've been doing this for a few years because of some of those things. And yeah, the background audio, too loud. The quality of my own audio was poor. So it's significantly better now.
I interrupt the conversation just briefly to tell you about our YouTube channel reviews. If you're looking for an inexpensive way to get another set of eyes on your YouTube channel, this is the way to go. I record a 6 to 8 minute screencast video talking about things that I think you can be doing better, things that you're doing well, and where I believe you should be spending the majority of your time. So check that out in the show notes down below if you haven't already. And don't forget, the best bang for your buck, in my opinion, in the YouTube creator space, $5 a month gets you in the Creators Corner group, exclusive podcast episodes, creator forums. Just have the ability every day to communicate with creators and like-minded individuals. So definitely check that out down below as well. With that said, back to the show. You mentioned click-through rate, and so let's talk about packaging. I'm on your channel right now, and I can see how it's evolved over time. You've gone back and probably changed some of, because it is a search-based channel, changed some of the older video thumbnails and titles as you've progressed and have learned, because that's what you do as a creator. But what are the things that you know now, 3-4 years down the line, when the last time we spoke, that you would say have really helped the click-through rate when people are searching or people see your videos and suggested? What are some things that you're implementing now that you've seen actual results from?
Yeah. So one is with the thumbnails, and I heard this on I can't remember the name of the channel, but on one of your recent episodes, someone had talked about the simpler the better with the thumbnail. And that's something that I certainly learned a few years ago. Some of my early thumbnails with these city overviews, I would basically include 4 images of landmarks of the city. Because in my mind, I thought, oh yeah, this helps show like what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about this famous train station and this sculpture and this skyscraper and this bridge or whatever it may be. And those did not perform as well. This is obviously before the A and B testing feature on YouTube. But yeah, I remember using that approach on a few videos, and they didn't do as well as just simply a really clean picture of the skyline. And I have a subscription with Adobe, stock to where I'm very intentional about what image that I use. And I spend a lot of time going through each page to find an image that is conducive for what I'm going for with a thumbnail, where I've got enough space to have the little meet Des Moines or meet Pittsburgh there in the top, a little bit of text that I have, the little text box on the thumbnail. But yeah, so I'm very intentional about my thumbnails, the images that I use. The other thing that I learned is like my Pittsburgh video, for instance, which was probably my first video. I know it was my first video that exceeded 100,000 views. That was a big moment for my channel. The Pittsburgh video really drove a lot of growth for my channel. And with the Pittsburgh video, a lot of their sports teams, primarily the Steelers, their colors are black and yellow. And that is such a big part of the identity of the city that rather than doing like a black and white text box or finding a color of one of the buildings or something to make it maybe pop a little bit more, I decided to go with a black box with the yellow text, knowing that the Steelers are such a big part of the identity of the city. And again, that was my first video. They got 100,000 views. And so I think that was also one of the first videos after getting a new microphone. There are a lot of things that you could probably attribute to why that video was successful, but certainly the click-through rate was good. And I think, again, being intentional about even the colors that I use in terms of the text was something that helped.
Yeah, I remember mentioning that to you, just notating it myself of seeing that video thumbnail, and I'm like, wait a minute. Is he like matching the colors? It's a thing that you don't think about, but as someone interested in that city, because it's so big as far as the cultural aspect of it, is a really great way of connecting dots, but keeping it simple. Because I think that the way I'm coaching clients now is way different than what I would do even 5 years ago with thumbnails, because it really is the simple things work. People are vomiting all kind of text on their thumbnails. It just doesn't work. Big, high quality, high contrast, high color thumbnails that are relevant to what you're talking about. They're curiosity inducing. These are all things that are working. And so I love hearing you talk about the inner details of kind of your thought process. That's kind of what we love to do here on the show. Speaking of data and analytics, what are things that you're looking at? Give me the top 1, 2, 3 data points that on a weekly, monthly basis you're digging into to make changes or to audit your channel to figure out where you need to move going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. Certainly, like one of the things, and this doesn't totally answer your question, but I'll keep thinking. But one of the things that I look at, again, all my city overview videos is I know that how important ranking on search is. And so it's always a significant thing when I start seeing the search views come in on an upload. And so we talked about this offline. It seems like it takes longer now than it even did a year ago for them to rank on search, but they eventually rise up in those search rankings. Again, it seems to take longer, but that's something to where I know that once I start getting significant search views, I'm probably going to get those for 2 years. And so that's something when I'm looking at the analytics, I'll go to an upload that I uploaded 2 months ago, which maybe hadn't gotten a whole lot of search views. But then when I see those search start increasing, like that's a really exciting moment for me because I know, okay, this video is taking off. It's taken a little while. And I've had to remind myself that it takes a little longer because sometimes it can be discouraging. You spend 16 hours making a video and it's not ranking on search, but you know that it's a high enough quality to where it should be. And I've just had to learn to be patient when it comes to that. One thing that I am just, again, trying to determine right now, is how often my cadence in terms of these city overviews, which has been my bread and butter for so long, compared to some of these other types of content that I talked about earlier in this recording is it best to alternate like one for one where I'm doing an overview and then I'm doing more of these like subjective algorithm type videos? Or do I do 3 search videos to 1? And so I'm trying to determine what that balance is and kind of what's worked in the past. Yeah, I don't know. There are a lot of things. I try to be strategic in terms of what city I'm going to do next. I don't want to, I know there could be an argument or case to be made where it's like, hey, the Seattle video took off. Now I should probably do a video on Tacoma, Washington, and Olympia, Washington, and Spokane, Washington, all right away. But I've been concerned if I'm doing that, that the people in Ohio are going to like lose interest. And so anyway, those are things that I try to look at, see which overview videos doing well, and be somewhat strategic when it comes to that. So that doesn't totally answer your question, but those are things that I dive into a little bit to try to be better informed for what I can change moving forward.
If you were starting a channel today, what would you do differently?
That's another good question. And fortunately for me, and I know not everyone is necessarily in this boat, there's a lot of you need to just figure it out once you get started. But the vision for the channel hasn't changed a whole lot since when I started. I've certainly getting a microphone earlier is something that I would have done. Looking back, it was silly that I went like a year and a half making videos with very low quality audio. I would, I'd mentioned earlier as well, like not being scared to share my opinion on things. It's like one of my favorite, love sports, and one of my favorite sports shows, the host likes to say that I am paid for having an opinion. He's very controversial, but like he understands that I'm paid for having an opinion. And so he shares these opinions, and oftentimes they're controversial, but he understands that having just a vanilla show, he's not going to be successful. And so I've had to embrace that a little bit. And that's something that early on in the channel, I was really scared to do. There was some imposter syndrome, but I don't have some degree in city planning, not an architecture major. And so I was a little, even though this was the vision for the channel, I was definitely a little more reserved in terms of sharing some of those opinions. Whereas now, again, not to say that it's always easy getting some of these negative comments from people that seem to know what they're talking about, depending upon the topic. But I try to not shy away from that. Ultimately, at this point, I do know quite a bit about cities because I've spent so much time studying this. Yes, I've traveled a lot for work and I've lived in a lot of places throughout the country, but I've also spent so much time learning about it to where I don't feel that same imposter syndrome like I used to. But I wish that I didn't give into that early on in the channel. So those are a couple things that I think looking back, I would have told myself to not worry about those things in the early days of the channel.
Yeah, that's certainly a hard one, right? Trying to put yourself in a position where you tell yourself over and over, my voice matters, my opinion is valid, and stop comparing yourself to those other creators. It's hard because oftentimes as a coach, I tell people, go to the other channels, look at what they're doing, see how we can implement it. But then we get over there on those channels and we start to compare ourselves and why aren't we getting the views? I hear this over and over. There's this guy in my niche or this woman in my niche, and her content's half as good as mine, but she's already 50,000, a million subscribers, whatever the data point may be. And in their minds, yeah, your content is better. Maybe it isn't. That's not really what we're trying to talk about here. But the bottom line is stop comparing yourself to those people. It does you no good. Does you no good. For the most part, those people have just been more consistent than you. They've shown more persistence to be able to show up and fail over and over again. And I believe this with all my heart. There are people as clever, as creative as Mr. Beast that could have done what Mr. Beast is doing. But what's happened is he is just willing to fail. He's willing to put something out there, let it fail, learn from it, and then iterate on those things. And so I love that. Now, with 2025 and beyond, artificial intelligence is here. Are you using any AI tools or any tech tools that you found to shave time, make your workflow more efficient as a creator?
You do a little for my scripting, and that's about it. I don't do any. I did make the mistake on one of my videos. I was ranking like the top towers, and I made the mistake. I ended up including an AI video. I guess I was editing too fast, and I got called out on that pretty quickly. Again, I'm much more careful about that now. I was completely fooled by one of these AI videos that at first glance I thought was a real video of the tower. But no, what I'm using right now is primarily I'll use ChatGPT or something to help a little with the scripting. Again, like I'd mentioned, I think that part of what makes my channel successful has been me sharing like my opinion. And I'm not having AI write my whole script, but with a section like I briefly cover like the history of a city. And that's something to where I'm trying to take like why the city is there in the first place. And in the past, that's a section that would really bog me down because there's just so much information to take in. And I'm going to multiple websites and I'm trying to find some way to condense the history of the city without missing something significant. And it was a large time suck when it came to my whole process was just that history section. And so probably more than anything else, AI is very helpful with that section. Again, I'll still try to put my own spin on it, or if there's something interesting that I had read that I want included in there. But that's certainly something that's helped quite a bit. But then, really, all the other sections, me evaluating the skyline, me talking about what are some unique aspects of the city. It's AI can't do that, and fortunately, it can't because that's even if there are other creators in my niche that want to do what I'm doing, and they're going to have ChatGPT write their scripts completely like I feel okay because I'm again sharing like my opinion. I think that's what people are interested in with some of those sections later in the videos.
So, my final question for you, Brady, today is this. What last word of advice would you give the creators listening to this show? Whether they're sitting there thinking of starting something, or they're trying to grow their current channel or Instagram page or podcast, or they're just trying to monetize it, make some money from it. What would be your final parting bit of advice to these people?
Yeah, a couple things come to mind. One is I'd mentioned this in the last podcast, but I have a cousin who is very successful on the platform. He's got over 9 million subscribers. And for years, he's told me, like, hey, it's not too late to start a channel. There's plenty of room on YouTube. And he was a major inspiration for me starting the channel. Him just again reminding me, hey, it's not too late. Even though he was off and successful, and it's easy to convince yourself, like, I missed the boat, my timing's not right. He was always very encouraging. It's not too late. And there was a time early on in the channel. It was the most discouraging moment for me the entire time with the channel is I start doing these overviews and I start finally getting a little bit of traction. And I had maybe 600 subscribers at this point. And another channel within the geography space with 600,000 subscribers started doing city overview videos where he basically copied my format. I'm not suggesting that he is copying my format, but all of a sudden he's making these videos and I just felt like I was going to get crushed. And I'm like, his channel is like, what, 100 times larger, 1,000 times larger than mine. And he's now making these city overview videos. And I remember calling my cousin and I'm like freaking out. And he's, hey, there are still so many eyeballs on the platform. You keep doing your thing. Don't worry about what he's doing. Like, just keep doing your thing, upload more consistently, improve a little with each video, some of these cliche pieces of advice. But that's what I needed to hear. And so, again, without that advice, I may have convinced myself that I was going to get crushed and that it was fun getting up to 600 subscribers, but that was kind of the end of the road. And so that was one thing. Another thing I just mentioned is I've had a lot of friends start channels since I've started my channel, and they maybe upload 5 videos before they end up quitting. And for me, I didn't make a penny until I had been doing this consistently, uploading 3 videos a month for a full year. It took me a year before I hit the 4,000 watch hours, before I hit 1,000 subscribers. And obviously it's picked up since then. But yeah, it was a year of not making any money. And I just had to be gritty and just keep pushing through, keep clicking upload, keep starting on the script for the next video. And now I'm really grateful that I was and that I pushed through because yeah, now it's easier that I'm making a little bit of money, but it took a year before I got to that point.
Man, what a lot of great advice. I listened to on my walk this weekend, our interview, episode 309, and just hear you talking there and then hearing you talking today, it's like a different person. You have absolutely learned so much in regards to content creation, YouTube, and even just how to run a business and do your own thing. And so, Brady, again, I'm so thankful for your willingness to come on the podcast. Again, you can find his channel. It's very simple, just City Geek. You can Google it, you can YouTube it, and find your favorite city, or maybe your home city, and see what types of videos and the content that we've been talking about and discussing today. All those links will be in the show notes. And Brady, we'll talk to you later.
Sounds great. Thanks, Dusty.
All right, and that's a wrap on this week's episode of the Creators Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, whether you listen on your podcast player or you're watching it on YouTube. It's free, and you get notified every Friday morning when we go live with a new episode, so definitely do that if you haven't already. If you know someone who would be a great fit or a great guest for this show and you have a connection, please email me, dusty@dustyporter.com. I'm always looking to highlight some amazing creators, so reach out to me if you know someone. And then lastly, don't forget, we bring this show to you absolutely free of charge. We just have services that we provide creators to help you further your creator game. So again, we have one-on-one coaching, we have the mastermind group, we have the YouTube channel reviews, email newsletter, which is free every other Friday, and then we also have the Entrepreneur's Toolbox, which is a running list of links and resources mentioned here on the show. With that said, we'll talk to you guys next week.